A while ago, I did a Harry Potter movie tier list, and if you can't tell by the fucking Slytherin beanie on my head, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. And in that tier list video that I did a while ago, I was wearing a Gryffindor beanie, and by some chance, if you watched that video, you would have remembered there was a pom pom on that beanie, and there's meant to be one on this one. But while I was putting this on, the pom pom fell off. really, really sad that that happened. It's meant to stick right there. But anyway, I'm going to be doing a Harry Potter books tier list today. I'm pretty keen to talk about it and all the things that I love that is in the books that are not in the movie. So I'll be talking all about that. And I'm just pretty keen to get into it. So I've got the tier list here with the pictures down here. They're all, I'm pretty sure, the original UK editions for the book releases, at least the first editions. So very nostalgic for myself personally, as I did collect these as they were coming out, or at least I started collecting them when I got a bit older. I actually got to go to the opening day at Borders in Australia for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows when that came out. And when that came out and you had to line up for the book, they actually gave you a little plush Hedwig toy as well, which was pretty cute, I thought. But anyway, the way the tier list is set out is the same way that it was set out in the last video with my movie tier list. It's set out in the OWL examination. What would you call it? Like score, like grade. So the top is outstanding. Then we go exceeds expectations, acceptable, poor, dreadful, and troll. So that's the way we're going to be ranking these. And to kick it off, we've got the very first book in the series, the one that started it all off, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, that's right, the Philosopher's Stone, not the fucking Sorcerer's Stone, whatever other title you have for philosopher. It's a philosopher. It's a Philosopher's Stone. Anyway, this book kicked it all off. It kicked it off in a pretty damn good way, I would say personally. One of the things that I do really enjoy about this book and a lot of the other books in this series is all the stuff that is in them and not in the movie. So, number one, the thing that sticks out to me the most is in the trials, I would say, the trio had to go through to get to the Philosopher's Stone. At the end, there was one trial that's in the book that is not in the movie, and it's the trial that Snape set up. So a lot of the teachers in Hogwarts that teach at Hogwarts actually set up the trials, I believe, that people had to go through to get to the Philosopher's Stone to make sure that it was protected as best as possible. And the one trial that they took out of the movie and left out and is only in the book is actually the one about potions. And I'm pretty sure that the trial is something like you have to drink a particular potion to get through. And you could either live or die in this fucking situation. Like, it had to take, I think Hermione might have been in this trial, potentially. It might have been the last trial before they go get to the Philosopher's Stone, or maybe there was one more, but anyway, Harry couldn't get through that one on his own, so I assume Hermione was there. I actually can't remember that well, but it was a really cool trial, and it was really cool in the way that it kind of made the characters think about all that they learned this year, especially in potions, which is a class that they famously hate in the books and the movies. Partly, or probably mostly, because Snape fucking teaches that class. But anyway, that was a really cool part that's in the books that's not in the movies. Another part of a lot of these books that aren't in the movies is actually the way they end. So recently, Eric Voss of New Rockstars has been releasing a breakdown for all the movies, and I've watched them like 100 times over. But I really enjoy just watching any video on Harry Potter, the movies or the books, because I fucking love them that much. So he actually pointed out one thing that I find really funny about how the books are different from the movies, and that's in the way that they end. So at the end of a lot of these books, when Harry goes back to the Dursleys, that's actually something that is in the book and not in the movie. For instance, the way that Philosopher's Stone ends in the movie is Harry, Ron, and Hermione get on the train and they kind of reminisce about staying at Hogwarts for a year and thinking about, oh, it's weird to go home for Hermione, but for Harry, it's not really going home because he feels like home is at Hogwarts, which is really cool. But in the book, he actually makes it all the way back to platform 9 3/4, and gets to meet the Dursleys again and kind of threatens them a little bit because at the start, obviously, Hagrid gave fucking what's his name, Dudley, a rat's tail or something like a pig's tail, and Harry kind of threatens that to him again at the end of this book because he's like, "Well, I've learned so much magic now. I can do some shit to you if you piss me off." So that's a really cool way to end the book, I think, and kind of funny that they left it out of the movie. But that being said, I think the movie actually ended in a really good spot. But those are just two things from the book that I remember that are not in the movie. So those are some reasons why I really like the book, especially. And for the Philosopher's Stone, honestly, I'd probably put it in acceptable. I think it's a really good way to kick off the series. Really fun and kind of nostalgic book, especially if you read it when you were a kid. And even on like repeat readings, like I've read it at least 3 or 4 times now, it still surprises me how good the first book is. Like it just really is genuinely a fun young adult, maybe not even young adult, kind of children's book about wizards and witches and everything like that. So really cool book. I'm glad it kicked off the series as good as it did. Next up, we have the Chamber of Secrets. Now, the Chamber of Secrets, I don't remember quite clearly how I ranked it for the movies. I might have put Philosopher's Stone above the Chamber of Secrets in terms of movies, but in terms of books, I would put the Chamber of Secrets above the Philosopher's Stone, only slightly. It surprises me once again reading this book again, like on repeat readings. It surprises me how good this book is compared to the first book and compared to the movie. I genuinely think these books almost, in most circumstances, get better on repeat readings and as they kind of go along in the series. So, in terms of things from the book that weren't in the movie, I'm actually struggling to think of things. I might actually struggle to think of things that aren't in the movie. Oh, I guess one of the things that isn't in the movie, like I said, is kind of the part at the end where Harry actually meets the Dursleys again after after finishing school for the year. So that's pretty cool. There are definitely some things that are in the movie that aren't in the book as well. But for some reason, those things are just not coming to mind. But honestly, regardless, I enjoy the Chamber of Secrets book a little bit better than the Philosopher's Stone book, which is pretty surprising, I would say. It kind of continues on just the trend of having a really cool and relatable trio of friends at Hogwarts, kind of learning about magic all for the first time and how they all kind of take it in, especially with like Ron versus Hermione, how one of them is really education focused and then Ron just kind of kicks it all to the side, which is pretty funny. A really fun and good book and a really wholesome book, I'd say, and I would definitely put it just above the Philosopher's Stone. I think they both go in the acceptable category. Really enjoyable reads. Next up, we have The Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, this book, I know the movie is so loved by everyone. You could almost give all that credit to Alfonso Cuarón, who directed the movie, and the kind of style that he went for with it, and the way he made all the characters look, especially with like Harry, with giving him this really messed up kind of appearance with his hair that wasn't in those first two movies. Because in the books, he's always described as having hair that's always unkept and always like standing up in weird places, and that's something that he actually finally decided to implement in the movie, which is really cool. So it's the first time something from the book that was like a character trait that was translated into the movie, which is really cool. In terms of like other events that weren't in the movie as much, I'm not sure if it was this book that kind of talked about it, but the fact that the Whomping Willow, like the pretty much the origin story of the Whomping Willow, I don't know if it was this book that they talked about it in or a later book, but the reason the Whomping Willow is a thing is because of Remus Lupin. And back when he was in school, when he was bitten and turned into a werewolf, pretty much, he needed a safe place to go. So I believe it was Dumbledore that planted the Whomping Willow tree to be there, or one of the headmasters planted it to be there. And it was a place for him to go to kind of uh, pretty much protect himself and others so he didn't like hurt anyone when he went into werewolf form. I believe he also had the Wolfsbane potion. So that just made him like I believe the Wolfsbane potion, you still turn into a werewolf, but you kind of keep your mind, so you're still in the right mind and you don't actually want to hurt anyone, but at the same time, you're still a fucking werewolf, so it's probably best to keep that a secret, especially with like the parents and everything that don't want their kids going to school with a werewolf. So I don't remember if that was like talked about in this book, but it was definitely talked about at some point in these books, and I think that's a really cool thing to kind of look back on, especially because the Whomping Willow is a big part of this movie. That's really cool. You kind of learn a bit more about Harry and his history with Voldemort and how things kind of went over with Sirius Black and with Peter Pettigrew and that whole story. Because at the start, he kind of sees Sirius Black as his person that's trying to kill him, and pretty much kind of follow along with what Voldemort's plan was to kill him. But then you kind of learn that Sirius Black is his godfather, and Peter Pettigrew was like the double agent the whole time, which is a kind of crazy storyline to tell. One thing about this book, I actually remember it being extremely well adapted as a movie. I actually don't remember a lot of things that just aren't in the movie because it's so well adapted, and it almost is a one-to-one. Please tell me if I'm forgetting something, because I really am. But nevertheless, The Prisoner of Azkaban is an outstanding book. It genuinely, like, the movie and the book are just both really, really fucking good and really enjoyable. And yeah, I would put them both in outstanding. So next up, we have The Goblet of Fire. There is a metric shit ton of things in this book that are not in the movie, and I really hope that when they do the TV adaptation, the HBO Harry Potter TV adaptation, that they implement every single thing that is in this book that is not in the movie. Because first of all, the Quidditch World Cup at the start, Dobby and Winky are there. Winky is actually a really cool character. He's actually, is actually Barty Crouch's elf, and she is kind of, I would say, treated pretty badly. Like, all the elves are treated pretty badly in the movie, but Winky in the book is actually saving a seat for Barty Crouch at the Quidditch World Cup. And this seat is in like the fucking, like, all the way at the top, at the very top. And one thing about Winky is she is absolutely shit scared of heights. But Barty Crouch makes her save him a seat at the Quidditch World Cup, which is kind of funny. But a kind of funny add-on, especially in the book, like a kind of funny side quest. She's there with Dobby as well, so they meet Dobby as well, and that's a kind of cool reunion there too. And then, like, the scene of the Quidditch World Cup in the movie is like a very short scene. So there's so much more, I think, that goes on in the book with the Quidditch World Cup that I would love to see pretty much an entire episode on for the TV series when they get to it. But that's one of the things that I absolutely love about this book that's not in the movie. Another massive plot point, or I guess you would call it like a side plot, but Hermione's, what would you call it? Like, she stands up against the kind of crimes against elves in these, in like the wizarding world, because essentially all the elves in Harry Potter are slaves. And well, I mean, outside of the wizarding world, that's obviously an extremely bad thing, but in the wizarding world, it's very accepted. And it's just kind of the way that things have been forever. And one of the funny plot points, especially with that, is the fact that she finds out that all the food in Hogwarts is cooked by elves, and they quite obviously do not get paid for it. And Hermione has a massive issue with that. So what she ends up doing is tries to pay the elves for their work or tries to like protest for them to get paid for their work, and the elves actually despise her for that, and which is so fucking funny. And the other thing is, all the other elves actually despise Dobby as well because Dobby is a free elf, but he still likes doing work. And another really funny thing on this fucking side plot is the fact that in the book, I believe Dumbledore gives fucking Dobby like $1 a month or some shit, but Dobby's so fucking happy with that payment and he like saves up for new clothes and fucking socks and shit. But Hermione once again is like jumping in here and she's like $1 a month, 1 galleon a month. Like, what the fuck is this? Which is just such a funny side plot. And I would love to see that kind of come into fruition with the TV show. But it's once again just something from the book that I really love that isn't in the movie. Other than that, I don't. Oh, actually, one other thing, phlegm. So phlegm is I guess you would say it's like a derogatory term for Fleur Delacour, and I believe Ginny and some of the other girls in the Weasley family really don't like Fleur for some reason. I can't quite remember. Oh, actually, I think it's probably just because all the boys are like fucking falling head over heels for her, and all the Beauxbatons girls. But phlegm is a word that Ginny and a lot of the other girls call Fleur, which is just really funny. So I'd love to see that kind of plot point come into the TV show eventually when they do it. Not only just to see that in the movie because it's something that's part of the book, or in the TV show because it's something part of the book, but also because it kind of gives that sense of young adult school rivalry, I guess you would say, and kind of a little bit more emphasis on like the sort of bullying that would happen as well at Hogwarts, because it's not a perfect place by any means. So it's a very small, minute thing, but it'd be cool to see it nonetheless. Honestly, I would put The Goblet of Fire in Exceeds Expectations. It's definitely not outstanding for me, but it's a really fun read. And there's just so much depth and lore that's explored in this book. I'd say probably for the first time because it was the biggest book when it came out. It was like massive. It's like 500 pages or something, maybe 600. So it was the first time these books like got really fucking big. And yeah, there's so much cool shit in it that's like side plot sort of stuff, but like really cool to read about as well and learn about. Next up is the Order of the Phoenix. So probably the number one thing that sticks out about this book to me that was not in the movie is the fact that the Weasleys and Harry, I believe as well, or probably the Order of the Phoenix, they all go to St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Incurable Diseases or something like that. That's what the title is. It's St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and something else. I can't remember. But anyway, they go there, and guess who the fuck they meet at St. Mungo's? They meet, what's his name again? Oh no, it's a guy that Kenneth Branagh played. Oh no, what's his name? Professor Lockhart? Professor Lockhart, I'm pretty sure. It's Professor Lockhart. Oh my god, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be so embarrassed, but I'm pretty sure it's Professor Lockhart. So at the end of the Chamber of Secrets, obviously he uses Ron's wand to curse Harry and Ron and do a memory charm on them, but it backfires. And what ends up happening is Professor Lockhart loses all his memory instead of them, and he gets sent to St. Mungo's. And in this book, they actually go there and meet him, and it's like this really awkward situation. Another thing about this book and relating to St. Mungo's as well, which is extremely sad, is that Harry actually sees Neville Longbottom at St. Mungo's as well, and he sees him and his grandmother visiting his parents because they were tortured to a point where they're pretty much, I think they're like, not in a vegetative state, but they're like kind of children in a way. They're, I believe they're tortured to a point where they like have really bad memory and all this stuff. So they're at St. Mungo's. They can't take care of themselves, obviously, and it's a really sad point in the book. But Harry sees Neville there and seeing his mum and stuff, and Neville sees Harry as well, and he's actually really embarrassed that Harry sees him with his parents because they're in a really bad state. But I believe Neville's grandmother kind of talks him up a little bit, or she's kind of a bit hard on him, on Neville, and she kind of really likes Harry, so they have a bit of a chat. But that's just another thing that's kind of in the book that's not in the movie. Other than that, one of the things that I really remember about the start of this book is how angry and emotional and hormonal Harry is. He is not getting any letters or kind of communication from Dumbledore or anyone in the Wizarding world. The reason he's so angry about it is because fucking Voldemort tried to kill him at the end of the Goblet of Fire. So he's like, what the fuck? Why can't I know anything about what's going on with Voldemort and the fuck the government? What are they called again? Not the Daily Prophet. That's the newspaper. Whatever the fuck they're called again. He's like really angry with everyone not communicating with him, and he's like really fucking angry. Like he yells when he finally meets like Ron and Hermione, and that's in the movie a little bit, but not as much. Like in the book, he's super angry. But those are just some of the things that I remember from the book that aren't in the movie. And I would love to see them kind of come to a future episode of the TV series that HBO do. But all in all, I think this is the longest book in the series as well, but it's really enjoyable nonetheless. I'd I'd probably put it below the Goblet of Fire, maybe just because I do really enjoy the whole Triwizard Tournament stuff. And one other thing about the Goblet of Fire book that I didn't talk about which is a very important plot point, which I can't believe they didn't, well, they kind of explore in the movie, but a really important plot point is it's when Fred and George start saving up for their shop in Diagon Alley. And the reason that's so important is because it's something they actually talk about and start planning in the Goblet of Fire book. That's why they do all the bets that are in the movie. That's why they like kind of make bets for the trials and everything with all the students of Hogwarts and teachers as well. Another funny thing, oh fuck, I can't remember his name, but it's like someone from the Ministry of Magic, not Barty Crouch, but someone else, actually makes a bet with them. I believe maybe at the Quidditch World Cup, and then he kind of continues betting with them throughout the trials of the Triwizard Tournament. But he keeps losing, and he actually owes Fred and George a lot of money, but he keeps running away from it, which is really funny to kind of hear about. And then at the end of the book, Harry gives his winnings to Fred and George to kind of help them with their plan for their shop in Diagon Alley. One other thing that just kind of came to mind, this book has so much fucking in it, the Goblet of Fire, sorry. One other thing is the fact that the whole like Moody Barty Crouch Jr. stuff in this book is actually really fucking intense. Even like after watching the movie 100 million times and reading the book a couple times as well, like each time I read it's just so intense because that's Barty Crouch Jr. and the way that he kind of socializes, I guess, with Harry is really weird and intense. And there's like this one scene where Barty Crouch turns up or like is found, and then they kind of go to get someone to kind of help him, and what's his name? Mad Eye Moody's there, but not Mad Eye Moody. Barty Crouch Jr. is there, and it's just this really intense scene that really sticks out to me. But anyway, enough of the Goblet of Fire. Really, really good book. There's so much in this book, man, that I would really love to see in a future episode of the HBO show. Anyway, moving on. Half-Blood Prince. Man, holy shit. The Half-Blood Prince, man. This book is pretty much the origin story for Voldemort. Those memories that Dumbledore kind of looks through with Harry in the Half-Blood Prince movie are all things that there's actually so much more of them in the book. They kind of look at the history of the Gaunt family, and they kind of trace back a lot of the Horcruxes that Voldemort makes as well along the way. They also look at, I believe, the prophecy and the whole curse that Voldemort put on the Defense Against the Dark Arts role in Hogwarts. So the reason that no teacher can last in that role for a year is because Voldemort put a curse on it. Because he actually wanted to teach Defense Against the Dark Arts at Hogwarts, but I believe Dumbledore is the one that didn't allow that to go through, and I'm pretty sure. Anyway, that's kind of how that thing all happened, and that's the sort of stuff that you learn in the memories that Dumbledore has collected over the years. Not just from like Slughorn, but other people as well. It's so fucking cool the way that they delve into all that stuff. And man, was it such a like it's probably everyone's biggest critique of the movie, the fact that they didn't add that stuff in and they only added like the Slughorn memory pretty much, and the one of Dumbledore meeting Tom Riddle for the first time at the orphanage. But other than that, man, there's so many memories in this book that kind of give you a better idea of how Voldemort kind of came to be. There's like a whole storyline of him going to Borgin and Burke's and acquiring the ring, I believe, or like he did when Tom Riddle finished at Hogwarts. He actually like took pretty much a gap year, but he worked at Borgin and Burke's, I believe, because there was so much like dark wizard stuff there that he like dark artifacts and shit that he was really fascinated by. But the weird thing about him working at Borgin and Burke straight out of Hogwarts is he was actually like a top of the class student. Like he had a lot of promise to him. There was like talks of him working at the ministry and maybe working up to be a fucking minister of magic one day. Like he had a lot of promise, a lot of hope and everything. But nonetheless, he kind of went down a dark path, and that's all the stuff that's explored in the book, and it's really fucking cool to read. So I'd honestly love to get all of that stuff in a future episode of the HBO show. But anyway, that all being said, I'd honestly probably put this above The Prisoner of Azkaban. It definitely goes in outstanding. I think it's a fantastic way to kind of explore Voldemort's origin and kind of leading into the last book as well. So really cool stuff there. Anyway, the very last book. No, this is not a two-parter. It's just one, The Deathly Hallows. One book, tying everything all together, the finale of the whole series. Man, I remember going to Borders in, oh man, what year was it? It might have been 2007, I think. Maybe 2008. No, fuck, what year was it? I don't remember when this book came out, but anyway, that year I went to Borders with my mum to line up for the book on release day. And I remember like in the car on the way there listening to the radio, and they were like counting down till the final they got the all clear to like sell the book and everything. So that was like a really cool memory. But man, this book, I think it ties everything all together really, really well. There's obviously a lot in it that's like not in the movie. Even though they did two parts for the movie, the sorts of things that aren't like in the movie are like certain characters' deaths. Like one of the twins dies in the book, and it's kind of explored a little bit more there. Ramus and Tonks, was it Tonks? I think it was Tonks. Ramus and Tonks are dying as well. That was explored a little bit more in the book. Fenrir Greyback is explored a little bit more in this book as well, and especially because he's actually at the Battle of Hogwarts and he turns a few people into werewolves, because that's kind of his like fetish in a weird way. Like that's what he does. He goes around to like little kids as well, especially. He goes around to kids and tries to turn them into werewolves at a young age, and then kind of tried to, how would you put it, like get them onto the dark side early on. So that's explored a little bit more. Other than that, I guess like all the kind of relationships that happen as well. Like I believe Neville and Luna is explored a bit more. Just that sort of stuff I would say is like the main things that were in this book that weren't in the movie. Or in either movies. That is probably all the stuff that I can remember. I don't think there's anything else that really comes to mind, but once again, please remind me if there's stuff that I'm forgetting. But nevertheless, I think this book really ties things together. It has a really fantastic ending. I think the whole like 19 years later, is it a prologue or is it an epilogue? I can't remember, but like at the end, the final chapter, 19 years later, just kind of explores um, what the characters are like after, like 19 years later, quite clearly, and how their relationships go. I don't think it's explored in this book, but Hermione becomes like Minister for Magic, which is really cool. I think that might have been explored in The Cursed Child, but that's something. And then like they all have kids and stuff, and it's a really cool way to kind of end the book. Other than that, I don't know. I guess like the Horcruxes are probably explored a little bit more in the way they make each of the characters feel and kind of the dark thoughts that they give everyone, um, especially with like Ron. And I guess it's kind of like a One Ring sort of situation there, quite clearly inspired by that. But um, yeah, I mean, the whole stuff with like Voldemort and his side of thing as well, his side of things is like another thing that's probably talked about a lot more. This is probably maybe one of the books that I don't remember quite clearly of all of them, but it's quite a big book, and even though they did two movies, I don't think it quite encompasses everything. But if I had to give it a rating, honestly, I think it has to go in outstanding. It's really hard for me to put it above or below the Half Blood Prince though. Oh, sorry, not in Troll. What the fuck? I think I'll put it below the Half Blood Prince. I think the Half Blood Prince is just a really fun book. Not just a fun book, but a book I think that I have a lot of kind of connection to because it's a little bit more young adult and kind of explores those like high school relationships a bit more, which I find really um, like I find a lot of connection with, especially like reading it back then as well. But yeah, I think that would have to be my rating for all of them. Um, I'd say The Philosopher's Stone and The Chamber of Secrets are far better as books than movies. Um, I'd say The Order of the Phoenix is much better. Goblet of Fire much better. The Prisoner of Azkaban and The Half Blood Prince, I'd say they're pretty on par with the movies in terms of quality. Like I said though, there's so much shit that's not in the movie that's in the book for The Half Blood Prince, but nevertheless, I think the quality is still there. And I think it's just as enjoyable all around. And then when it comes to like the Deathly Hallows, I mean, both the movie and the book tie things together so well at the end and just leave things in a really good spot. Uh, and yeah, I think that's where my ranking lands. It's really hard for me because I love all these books and movies and things, so it's hard for me to kind of put them in their places and rank them. But quite clearly, as a big fan, didn't put any of them below average. So none of them go in poor, none of them go in dreadful, none of them go in troll for me. So that's my ranking. Really excited for the HBO show. Really, really fucking keen for that. And I've been really enjoying Eric Voss do his breakdowns for all the movies on the New Rockstars channel. So really excited for those to keep coming out. I think he's up to the Prisoner of Azkaban next. So really keen for that. But yeah, that's my ranking for all of them. Uh, I might have to revisit it one day, but I'll definitely read the books at some point again. But that's not for a little while. So that's where I put them.